Welcome everyone to Conquering Canvas with JAWS Beyond the Basics. And I am happy to introduce Elizabeth Whitaker from Vispero.
All right. Thank you very much, Leslie and Stephanie. I'm Elizabeth Whitaker. I manage our user education and documentation team. And today we are going to be covering beyond the basics of Canvas with JAWS. So we did a webinar last year that will give you some basic information about navigation. And we are going to be talking about a few of those same topics today, but we're going to be taking a deep dive into those. Before we get started, let's talk about our topics for today. So we're going to be talking about an overview of navigating Canvas with JAWS, accessibility considerations and accessibility settings. I'm talking about some collaboration tips using those announcements, how to access and read those, how to navigate and participate in discussions, how to read and send messages, and also some other things related to collaboration, things like using Google Docs and how to add those web resources to your courses. And then we're going to talk about how to access the class syllabus as well as accessing the rubric for a course or for an assignment. All right, so before we delve into this overview, I think we have a couple of polling questions pertaining to our topic for today.
We do. And let me go in and launch the next poll. Oh, sharing back. There we go. Launch the next poll. All right. So our polling questions for today. Question number 1, what is your skill level with JAWS? You get to choose beginner, intermediate, expert, or I have no experience with JAWS. And then question number 2 is, what is your experience using Canvas with JAWS? And your choices are, I can successfully navigate and access content on Canvas. I can navigate Canvas with JAWS, but need assistance, locating information using features, and I have never used Canvas with JAWS. So we're going to give that a moment. While y'all are doing that, I'm going to remind everybody that you can go down to your chat box and change your chat box so that you can share with everyone. I'm saying this because I forgot to do that before I shared the opening code in the handouts. So those are now also in your chat box. So if you need access to the handouts or if you miss that opening code, it's in the chat box. All right. It looks like we have over 60% participated in our poll. So I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results. Elizabeth, it looks like we have 40% identified as beginner, 28% as intermediate, and 19% as expert. And then we have 13% that have no experience using JAWS. Question number 2, it looks like a majority, 72% of our participants today have never used Canvas with JAWS. 19% can navigate Canvas with JAWS but need assistance locating information and features, and 9% can successfully navigate and access content on Canvas with JAWS.
All right, great. Thank you guys for filling out that information. So a few key takeaways from today. I'm going to be demonstrating a lot of these tasks. I'm going to be talking about things. I'll be giving you some keyboard commands along the way. Those are all in the handout, as are the resources where you can find additional information. So please don't feel like you have to memorize all of them. The main things that I want you to take away from this are how to navigate, how to form a conceptual idea of what's on your screen. And we're going to do that by talking about web navigation using JAWS. So I'm probably going to use a lot of these keyboard commands. We're going to be talking about things like quick navigation keys for JAWS, regular, standard navigation keys. We're going to talk about what all of those things are. So in addition to demonstrating all of these tasks, I really want you to take away from this that if you are able to navigate web pages, then there are things that you can do when you're trying to troubleshoot and figure out how things are laid out. Because as we know, not every page is laid out the same, and not every course is necessarily going to be laid out the same. I'm also going to be demonstrating this from a teacher and a student point of view, although the two will be very similar in terms of how you navigate. The only difference is, teachers will have access to certain things that students won't because they're creating the courses and things like that. And also, I am using a free Canvas free for teachers account. Now, it's my understanding that that is also very similar to what you find in schools and colleges and other learning institutions. But of course, there are going to be some things that may be specific to your school or your college, university, and your learning institution. So just a couple of disclaimers there. All right, so let's jump right into an overview. So Canvas is a web-based learning management platform. It's used in a lot of schools, colleges, and other learning institutions, and it is accessible with screen readers like JAWS. You can navigate Canvas using standard navigation commands. I'm going to define all these things in just a minute. Standard navigation commands, quick navigation keys, which are JAWS quick nav keys, and native keyboard commands. So throughout this demonstration, I will specify when we're using a Windows command and a JAWS command because it's very important to specify that. Now, when we say standard navigation commands, what I'm referring to there are your standard commands for things like navigating documents and web pages, using your arrow keys, for example, to read line by line, up and down arrow, tab through a web page, or control right and left arrow, how you would navigate a document, and control right and left arrow navigates by word, things like that. How do you navigate that document? JAWS quick navigation keys are specific to JAWS, and they were developed to enable us to navigate very quickly to certain parts of a web page. And we need HTML documents. So and some other places like Word as well. We can use those there. Anytime you have a web page element, which is anything that you can interact with on a web page, whether it's a heading, an edit box for typing, a search, a button, a table, anything like that. So we refer to those as web page elements. So these quick navigation keys allow you to navigate to web page elements very quickly. For example, and we're going to talk more about this in a minute, headings are very common on web pages. They're used to specify a title and then, topics under that title, different sections, things like that. And we can navigate those using the letter H. So that's what we mean by JAWS quick nav keys. Native keyboard commands are those that are specific to the application or web page, which in this case is Canvas. So the people who develop Canvas have created some keyboard commands that enable you to do certain things, and they're available on certain pages, and we'll talk about that. There are some places where there will be keyboard commands available, and some places there won't be. But you can use those whether you're using JAWS or not. Doesn't matter. Those are specific to Canvas, and they have developed those to make navigation easier. All right, we're going to move on to the slide where we talk about accessibility considerations. Now, what I'm referring to here are considerations for teachers who are developing Canvas courses or courses on Canvas. And these are some considerations that are recommended by Canvas. So first and foremost, one of the things that we can struggle with sometimes, it can be a bit challenging as a JAWS user, is navigating pages that are very cluttered. So if you can ensure that your layout is simple and uncluttered, and what we mean by that is, have the information presented there, just what's needed in a way that is easy to navigate, then someone who's using a screen reader, in this case JAWS, can easily navigate that information and know what it is. Another consideration is to organize content in short paragraphs so it's easy to scan. This is something that's come about in the last several years online, just for, for any content online, so that people can easily visually scan those paragraphs, and so that we can also jump to them easily with JAWS, because there are commands that allow us to do that. So what's typically recommended there is 2 to 3 sentences, no more than 3, so that you can scan those paragraphs easily and know, navigate to different ideas in that content. Include section headings so that we can navigate by heading. So what I'm talking about there is, let's use a Word document for just a second as an example. You can create a document and you can visually draw attention to section headings by making the font larger, using a specific font, by making it bold. But unless you create that with the heading style, unless that's actually created as a heading, JAWS users, we can read the information, but we can't necessarily navigate to that information very quickly. If it's actually created as a heading, heading level 1, heading level 2, and so forth, we can navigate that with the letter H. Use alt text to describe images, and usually what is recommended there, this is the text that describes what's in the image, what's in the picture, but it describes, when you write that alt text, try to use some text that describes information that's very useful to the user. For example, instead of just saying girl sitting at laptop or girl using laptop, you might say something like girl reading Braille on, Braille display connected to her laptop, or, something like that. So something that tells the JAWS user why that information is relevant, why that image is relevant. Link URLs, which is a web address. A URL is a web address. So link web addresses to words that describe the destination rather than just using the actual web address. If I am writing content and I want to refer to the Freedom Scientific Training page, if I wrote something like, visit the Freedom Scientific Training page at www.freedomscientific.com/training, that's going to be a lot of text there. Instead of doing that, what is recommended is to link that web address to the words, for example, Freedom Scientific Training. So I would say I would select the words Freedom Scientific Training, and I would link the address there. And JAWS is going to say link Freedom Scientific Training page, and you can press enter and actually navigate to that link. And then finally, in a table, you want to make sure you include those column and row headers so that when a JAWS user is navigating a table, we will always know what column or row we're on. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next slide, which is accessibility settings. And I'm going to talk through this one, and then I'm going to share my screen and demonstrate or show you how to get to those accessibility settings. And it'll be the same for students as it is for teachers. So there are a lot of accessibility settings in Canvas. You can navigate to your account button or profile and then go to settings. And there you'll see things like settings for closed captioning, enabling keyboard shortcuts, high contrast, Microsoft Immersive Reader, opening to-do items in a new tab, and all kinds of things like that, underlining links. So I'm going to go ahead now and share my screen here, and you're going to hear JAWS as well. And then I will show you how to locate settings. And
Desktop.
all right.
Dashboard Work Microsoft. Dashboard Google Chrome banner.
All right, I'm here in Chrome. I have two different browsers open. This one is the teacher login, and the other one is the student.
Dashboard.
So I'll make sure I'm maximized here.
Content X, leaving.
All right, so I'm at the dashboard. I'm logged in. I'm at the dashboard. I'm going to locate the account button with the letter B.
Account button.
And I'm going to press space.
Space. Profile tray. Elizabeth Whitaker. Use eye contrast. UI talk.
All right, so it comes up and it starts reading a lot of things here.
Close button.
What's important is that
Close button.
at the top here, well, we have we call these modals. And so it opens up an area here on the screen with some information. At the top here, we have this close button. And if I down arrow,
User profile picture graphic heading level 2 Elizabeth Whitaker.
I'm going to press H to navigate through the headings on this page. Now, this is that quick navigation key we were talking about, H for heading.
Wrapping to top, Elizabeth.
All right, but before I do that, I think I need to locate settings. So here's another JAWS command for you. This one will bring up a list of links on the page. Insert F7.
Links list dialog.
And I'm looking for settings, so I can use what's called first letter navigation, which is pressing the first letter of the link that I'm looking for. So I'll press S.
S, settings, 4 of 8.
And I'll press enter.
Enter, profile tray, Elizabeth Whitaker notifications profile dash.
So this takes me to the settings page. Now I press control so that it wouldn't read all of that information while it was getting there.
Global.
All right.
None same page link.
So I'm going to go ahead and go to the top with control home. You don't have to do this. I just like to for point of reference.
User settings.
So here we have a title, user settings. I'm going to press H a few times and navigate through some of these things. And what we're looking for is the word user.
Elizabeth Whitaker's web services heading level 2.
There's web services where you can add certain web services there.
Registered services heading other services heading approved integrations. User heading level 2.
And we're here at user. From here, I can use my down arrow key to navigate this table, which includes all the settings.
Table with 3 columns and 13 rows. User, feature, status, state. Auto show closed captions button collapsed.
Now it says this is collapsed. I can press space to expand it, but I really don't need to do that. This is for auto show closed captions. So if I down arrow, it's going to tell me the state of this control, if it's enabled or disabled.
Auto show closed captions, current state, disabled button menu collapsed.
Okay, so it told us, read the setting to us, told us that it was disabled, and told us that this was collapsed. If I want to open a context menu that's going to show me the options for this setting, I'll press enter or space.
Space, context menu, auto show closed captions, current state, disabled menu, auto show closed captions.
And now I can down arrow to navigate through the options here.
Disabled checked, 2 of 2.
And it said disabled checked. That is the option that's currently selected. If I down arrow again,
enabled not checked, 1 of 2.
It tells me enabled is not checked. If I wanted to enable that, I could press space or enter. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to press escape to get out of this.
Escape, virtual.
And what you hear there is forms mode. That is a feature in JAWS that allows us to interact when we're in different form fields, whether it's on a menu on a web page or an edit field. So you'll hear that little pop that turns it on and the little pop that turns it off. Okay. So that's how we change the settings on this page. I'm going to keep pressing down arrow.
Auto detect field separators and auto detect field separators.
I'm not going to go through all of these, but I am going to hit a few.
Course setup tutorial button collapsed.
Here's one for a course setup tutorial.
Course setup tutorial, current state, disabled button menu collapsed.
Now I have that disabled. Again, I could press space or enter and down arrow to enable and press space or enter there. And I could enable that.
Disable alert notification time up, disable celebration and disable keyboard shortcuts button collapsed.
This one, the way it's worded can be a little bit confusing because it says disable keyboard shortcuts because by default they're enabled. I have this setting disabled, meaning my shortcuts are still enabled. If I enable this setting, it's going to turn off those keyboard shortcuts.
Disable keyboard high contrast UI button collapsed.
High contrast is something that you might use if you have difficulty seeing the screen, whether you're using magnification or not. You may benefit from this. Your students may benefit from this as well. So that is also an option for the user interface.
High include by order market include Microsoft Immersive Reader button collapsed.
Microsoft Immersive Reader. Now this is a feature that we're seeing in a lot of Microsoft products now. If you are in Edge, if you're using the Edge browser or Outlook, or you can select parts of text and it will read those to you if you have that enabled, and that works here in Canvas. The Immersive Reader is also available in Edge for reading articles and things like that. And I'm going to demonstrate that later when we talk about the syllabus because it makes it really easy to read the content without a lot of extra controls or information on the page. We're going to get to that.
Microsoft Im open to do items in a new tab button collapsed.
You can open to do items in a new tab. I personally like that one just because it'll open those items and then I can press Control F4 to close that tab. Otherwise, you would have to use your Alt left arrow to go back a page.
Open to underline links button collapsed.
Underline links, this just calls attention to the links. So if you want them to stand out, you can choose this option.
Under use semicolons to separate use table end.
And that is all, those are all of the settings there. Now, I can just go back a page and get back to where I was, but a really quick way, so I don't have to keep going back, and I really like this about Canvas. There's a really quick way to always go home, so to speak. You can always go back to that dashboard. So I'm going to press Insert F7 to bring up my list of links. That's a JAWS command.
Links list dialog.
And I'm going to press D for dashboard.
D, dashboard, 2 of 31.
And enter. You notice it said 2 of 31, so we know that that is the second of 31 links on the page.
Enter. Dashboard, dashboard.
All right. All right, I'm going to stop my screen share now, and we can go on to the next slide. Actually, let's see if you guys have any questions before we get to that.
Elizabeth, this is Stephanie, and I wanted to let everybody know that you may now go into the chat box and change it to everyone and ask questions. I apologize that that was not enabled at the very beginning. So we haven't had any questions come in yet, but now they can ask them.
Okay.
And I have this is Leslie, I have the PowerPoint back up on the last slide. Shall I go to the next one?
Yes, let's go to the collaboration slide. Are we giving it a second here to see if anybody has any questions?
Yes, that too.
Okay.
Just
We have a couple of them coming in.
Okay.
We have a question about JAWS. For JAWS 2023 users, would Smart Glance work for this page?
It's very possible that it would. We will try that here because that's a great question. And what this feature is, it allows you to navigate to text on a page that someone has created. Maybe they bolded it, made a different color so that it visually stands out, but it does not stand out as a heading or any other kind of element. So that's a great question. And sometimes when you're on a page, you can press the letter Y, and it's either going to tell you there are smart glances, or it's going to navigate through them, or it's not going to. But we'll get to that. We'll definitely talk about that. Great question.
All right, and then we had a question asking if this was being recorded, and it is, and will be posted. So we'll make sure that you have that information. And she missed a command, so I wanted to tell her that we do have a document that Elizabeth shared with us, and I will put that back in to the chat box that has the commands and what she's using, as well as some other resources to share. And then somebody asked, let's see, Lauren asked, what is the website for Canvas? And so I will get her that. And then Ben asked, can JAWS work with Windows 11, and does it work with 2-in-1s?
Oh, 2-in-1s as in tablet and laptop. I think that might be what you mean there. The answer to that is yes, and yes, it does work with Windows 11. And that's actually what I'm using now, is Windows 11.
And then we have one more question. Is Canvas accessible for Macs too with VoiceOver?
I cannot speak to that. I've not actually tried it on a Mac, but I'm sure they have information on the Canvas website about that. They do have there is an entire page dedicated to accessibility. So you might look there and see what they have.
All right. We had another question come in. Is there any means that teachers can write the alt text solely for the screen reader?
Well, the alt. Now, I've not actually added images, but yeah, typically alt text is when you enter the alt text, it's supposed to be something that is picked up by the screen reader, but is not necessarily visible. If you have specific questions about that, you can send an email to training@vispero.com, and we can help get you that information that you need.
Right. And there are two links. The link to the handout should go to a document. I will make sure that we have the right one uploaded there. And the second link, and then there should be a PDF of the webinar. All right, I think that's all of the questions that have come in so far.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to continue on here talking about collaborating in Canvas because there are several ways that Canvas offers for collaborating. So there are three main means of communication, which are your announcements, discussions, and messages. I'm going to talk through all of these slides before I demonstrate because each of these, while they're very separate things, navigating them is very similar. So you can access announcements right from your dashboard, and you can navigate those announcements by heading by pressing the letter H. And you have, link to reply. You have some other options there. And announcements, can be used for anything from something that you want to tell students, or as a student, you can navigate those announcements to see what information the teacher instructor has placed there pertaining to the class overall, or maybe a certain module. Now we'll move on to the next slide, which is for the discussions. And you're going to access those the same way that you do announcements. You're going to do it from the dashboard. And then you're going to be able to navigate through the different discussions using your headings. There are going to be links to each discussion so that you can go in and read the main discussion and each reply. And it's recommended, and this again would be a user preference, but it's recommended to turn off threaded replies so that all of the replies don't necessarily show up in one place. You can actually navigate to the different replies and read them individually, like individual messages. You can also search discussions by title or author, and there are other ways to search when we're in these other means of collaboration as well. And you can also use tools like Google Docs for collaboration, and you can add, when you do that, you have to add your Google Drive to Canvas. And then we'll move on to the next one, which is messages, and then I'm going to demonstrate all of these for you. So again, messages are going to show up in your inbox, which you can access from your dashboard. And I'll show you how to access those as well as get to the messages that you have sent people. Again, you're going to use quick navigation keys like H for headings to navigate to the different messages in your inbox. And you can compose a new message and you can reply to messages. And there are options for forwarding messages. And so you get a lot of different options there. All right, so now I'm going to share my screen and we're just going to walk through a few things with announcements, discussions, and messages. And I'm going to show you on, again, both. I'm going to use both the teacher and the student side for this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Desktops.
All right, let's go to the
Share
student.
preview. Canvas beyond the basics. Dashboard work. Microsoft Edge.
Okay.
Dashboard.
So I am logged in here as a student in Microsoft Edge. Now, I'm here on the dashboard and just kind of navigating your class. There are a couple of different things we need to know before we delve into where to find things, because you have some options that you can change. By default,
Account button.
you have what's called card view. So if I press the letter H,
Dashboard heading level 1. Creative writing visited heading level 3 link.
there's my course.
To do heading level 2.
There's my to do.
Recent feedback heading level 2.
And there would be recent feedback if I had any.
Wrapping to top.
But we can also navigate to, I'm going to press the letter B for as in Bravo.
Account but courses button.
We have courses,
History button.
history,
Help button.
help,
Expand global navigation button.
and we have a global navigation button.
Dashboard options button menu collapsed.
This is what I'm looking for. Dashboard options. Now I know this doesn't pertain specifically to messages and what we've been talking about, but I do want to show you this before we delve in. So I'll press space to open it.
Space menu. Dashboard options menu. Dashboard options context menu.
So we have a context menu and our options are, this is what determines the type of view we have for our dashboard.
Card view checked. 1.
Card view is checked.
List view 2 of 3.
List view, that'll give you a different view
Recent activity.
and recent activity. So if we go to list view, for example,
List view 2 of 3.
I'm arrowing through those, by the way, and I'm going to press enter on list view.
Enter. Loading. Leaving menus. Dashboard.
All right. Go to the top. Now, if I press the letter H, I'm going to get a different layout here.
Dashboard heading level 1. Today, February 21st, heading level 2. Alert.
That's going to show me today.
Thursday, February 23rd, Friday, wrapping to top. Dash.
And so forth. So again, however you want to set that is up to you. It's personal preference. I personally like the card view, but that may just be because I've gotten used to it. I'm going to press B to navigate back to that option button.
Account courses history but help button.
And we still have all these buttons here.
Expand global navigation button. Today button. Add to do but show my grades but opportunities pop-up button.
And these show you different. We're seeing different things here though.
Dashboard options button menu collapsed.
All right. So I'm going to go back to dashboard options.
Space menu.
And I'm going to go to card view.
Card view 1 enter. Leaving menu.
And there we go. We're back to that. Okay. So
Dash.
Let's go to announcements. All right. Now we've been using this insert F7, which is the JAWS keyboard command to bring up a list of links. I'm going to use another JAWS command here instead. I'm going to use find. So I'm going to press Control F as in find.
Virtual find. JAWS find dialog.
And I can type in either all or part of what I want to search for. So I'm going to type
ANNOUN. Enter. Visited link announcements, creative writing.
All right. So it tells me announcements. It also tells me the name of the course. And it says visited link because I've been there before. And when you go there, if the color changes on a link that you have previously visited, JAWS will notice that and you will get a visited link. It'll verbalize that. All right. So I'm going to press space to activate that link. You can also press enter.
Space, creative writing, loading complete.
Now, we were talking about smart glances a minute ago. Fortunately, these pages are created so that there are a lot of headings, but smart glances allow you to navigate. This is a new JAWS feature that we just introduced in 2023 that allows you to navigate through text that maybe isn't an element like a heading, but maybe it's really important, like contact information or, you'll see that on shopping websites and things like that. Anything that where someone has called attention to it visually.
0 unread replies, 1 total replies.
And there is a smart glance here. I press the letter Y and it tells me how many replies.
Wrapping to top.
And that's the only one there.
0 and wrapping to top. Announcements.
Actually, it's not. Okay. So we have one for announcements. So that's just something you might try when you're on, different areas, different pages. That's one of those things you can try to see if, maybe in an assignment, maybe there's text that is a certain color or bolded or something like that. And the instructor has called attention to it, you can get to it that way. All right, so I'm going to go back to the top of this page.
Announcements.
And we're going to press H to get to the heading for announcements.
Announcements heading level 1.
And if I press H again.
Announcements list heading level 2.
Now we're to the announcements list. Let's down arrow.
Elizabeth Whitaker graphic. Visited heading level 3 link. Welcome to creative writing.
All right, so that's the first announcement, which is also a heading, by the way. And it said it's a heading and a link because it said visited link. And if we down arrow.
All sections.
So all sections of the course see this announcement.
This course will focus on expressive writing in many different forms. Students will have the opportunity to explore.
And it's going to read that announcement. I'm just going to kind of arrow through that.
Pros to avoid visited link reply.
Here we could reply.
0 unread replies, 1 total replies.
So 0 unread replies, 1 total replies.
Posted on Feb 20, 2023, 4:32 p.m.
So it tells us when it was posted.
Canvas support button.
All right, when we get to that Canvas support button, we know that we're at the end of that. Let's go back up to the heading where we can actually enter on the link to go directly to the announcement.
Welcome to creative writing visited heading level 3 link.
All right, I pressed Shift H to get to that. So you press H to navigate forward through headings, and you press Shift H to go back. Let's press enter.
Enter main region. Welcome to creative writing heading level 3 link.
All right, now I'm in the topic.
Topic.
It says topic. And I can again use the letter H.
Welcome to creative writing heading level 1. Renee Whitaker heading level 2 link.
All right, now that's my student name, so I can down arrow.
Local Feb 21 to 10:16 a.m. BR course. Feb 20 manage discussion entry button.
So
I am excited to begin this.
I replied to this announcement and it's reading my reply.
I am excited to begin this course. Like this entry button.
You could like the entry.
Reply to comment button.
I could reply.
Canvas support button.
And again, I'm back at the bottom.
Reply to comment button.
So if I wanted to reply here, I could press the space bar.
Space. Link can post reply button.
Okay.
Top.
So we have a dialog here that comes up. I went to the top of the page because that's a good place of reference here for demonstrating.
Welcome to Creative Writing heading level 1.
So here we have the announcement.
Renee Whitaker heading level 2 link. Wrapping to top. Renee Whitaker heading.
So if I down arrow here.
Local Feb 20 manage. I am excited to view keyboard shortcuts button menu.
Now, you heard it say view keyboard shortcuts button menu. So on pages where keyboard shortcuts are available for Canvas, those are those native commands we were talking about that are specific to Canvas, you will have that menu. And if we press space on that,
space, keyboard shortcuts, other editor
we get a list of keyboard shortcuts. And this is kind of an overlay here on the page.
Close button.
We have a close button.
Heading level 2 keyboard shortcuts.
And here we have a table. We're not going to go through all of these, but I want to show you a few of them.
Table with 2 columns and 7 rows. Keyboard shortcuts, key shortcut, description.
So it's going to give you the shortcut and it's going to tell you what it does.
Alt plus F8.
Alt F8.
Open this keyboard shortcuts dialog.
So on pages where shortcuts are available, Alt F8 will open this dialog right here.
Control plus F9. Focus element options toolbar. Alt plus F9. Go to the editor's menu bar.
That's going to be important in a minute. I like that one. I'll show you that one.
Alt plus F10. Go to the editor's toolbar. Escape. Close a menu or dialog.
And then there's some others here that tell you how to navigate, like with using tab and things like that. Now I'm going to press escape and get rid of this dialog.
Escape. Keyboard shortcuts. Other main.
And I'm back here on my page, and you heard forms mode activate. I'm going to
virtual PC cursor.
Press my. You can press escape, but I press to get out of the forms mode because I don't want to type anything right now. So again, it told us if we press Alt F8.
Alt F8, app bar toolbar, settings and more.
And I think
keyboard shortcuts,
there we
other
go.
editor.
All right.
Close button.
So here we have those keyboard shortcuts that we just looked at. So you can access them with Alt F8, or you can just access them where it says keyboard shortcut menu.
Escape, keyboard shortcut.
All right. So another one I really like. Let's explore what we have here, and then I'll show you this other one that I really like here that's has a lot of controls.
Topic.
So here we have topic.
This course will focus. Welcome to Creative Writing.
So
Renee Whitaker, wrapping to top. Renee Whitaker, I am view keyboard short.
All right, so we're back where we left off.
Edit.
Here we have an edit field where we can type our reply. So if I wanted to do that, I would press enter to turn on forms mode.
Enter, edit.
I would type my reply. And then I can tab where I get some other options.
Editor status bar toolbar, view keyboard.
What it was saying there is editor status bar toolbar. And if we right arrow here, we have some options. We have keyboard shortcuts.
Accessibility checker button.
That's an accessibility checker.
0 words button.
I have no words, but if I had typed, it would give me a word count.
Switch to the HTML editor button, full screen button, drag handle, use up view keyboard.
And so that's just a toolbar with some options that we can navigate with our right and left arrow keys. If we tab,
cancel link.
We have a cancel.
Post reply button.
And we have a post reply button.
Link draft.
Now the other keyboard command that it mentioned here is Alt F9.
Alt F9.
Let's see.
Drag handle full screen. Topic. Welcome to Creative Writing. Alt F10.
No.
Alt F9.
All right. For some reason.
Same page.
Well, we're going to get that to come up here in just a minute.
Welcome to
All right. So.
Link all, no search entries or author edit.
You can also search entries or author.
Edit.
And so here we have our reply. So that's how you can reply. I'm going to cancel that actually.
View keyboard shortcuts. Alt F9.
Yeah, we'll get that to come up in a minute. Sometimes that one is, and it may be coming up in another place, but that's one of those troubleshooting things. But I do want to show you that one. All right.
View keyboard shortcuts button menu space. Keyboard short.
So I'm going to go back to the keyboard shortcuts and make sure I have that command right. That's one of the great things about having the list of keyboard shortcuts available is that if you think, well, did I just get the command wrong?
Edit table keyboard short descript Alt plus F8. Open this control focus Alt plus F9. Go to the editor's menu bar.
Okay.
Escape keyboard shortcuts.
I know I got
other
it
editor
right.
main region list. Alt F9 menu edit.
Here we go. All right. So sometimes things don't happen as we expect them to. Sometimes if you go back in and check something and you come back out and you do it again, it works. So it probably had something to do with something that was going on the page. This Alt F9, this is specific to Canvas. Alt F9 brings up these menus here, and we can go across these with our right and left arrow keys. We have Edit.
View 2 of 6.
View.
Insert 3 of 6.
Insert.
Format 4 of 6.
Format.
Tools 5 of 6.
Tools.
Table 6 of 6.
And table. So let's go to tools and see what we might find there. Actually, let's go to insert.
Format. Insert 3 of 6.
And if I down arrow to get in this menu, this is very similar to accessing a menu bar in an application where you press Alt and you have the menus. This Alt F9 brings up this menu bar of sorts, and we have different menus. So we down arrow.
Link submenu 1 of 8.
And we can insert links.
Image submenu 2. Media submenu.
Images, media, documents, all kinds of things. And the ones that are that are submenu, you can press right arrow.
Upload/record media 1 of 2.
And it opens up that submenu. So we could upload media, record it.
User media 2.
User media. So again,
media sub.
Left arrow to close that. You can either press Alt F9 to get back to your menu bar there, or you can just press Escape and press Alt F9 again.
Escape, leaving menus.
All right, so that's one I really wanted to show you. Okay, so that is how we handle announcements. Now let's go back to our dashboard.
Links list dialog. D. Dashboard. Enter. Loading page. Dashboard. Loading complete.
All right, we're gonna and again, these concepts are going to be the same throughout. They're going to be very similar. So let's go to discussions. I'm going to do a find with Control F.
Virtual find.
And type in
DISC.
the first part of discussion.
Enter. Visited link discussions creative writing. Enter. Loading page.
All right.
Loading complete.
So you're going to find
I'm
going to let Josh stop talking there. Okay. You're going to find different options here in each, slightly different, but the concepts are going to be the same. How you compose, how you reply, things like that. So we're going to use the letter H.
Discussions heading level 1. Discussions heading level 2. What makes a good story? Due Feb 24, 1:59 a.m. Visited heading level 3 link.
All right, that's a discussion and it has a due date attached to it. And we can press down arrow. We know that's a link and we're going to go there in a minute, but let's press down arrow.
Subscribe to What Makes a Good Story button.
Now, if you subscribe to a discussion, anytime somebody makes a comment, leaves a reply, anything like that, you get a message, a notification that tells you that there's a new comment, a new reply.
Heading level 2 closed for
Okay.
Visited heading.
So let's go here to this discussion. I'm going to press enter.
Enter. Loading page. Loading topic. What?
All right. So we have
topic. What makes a good story?
Topic. What makes a good story? So we're going to press H.
What makes a good story? Heading level 1.
And we can down arrow to read it.
Link Elizabeth Whitaker. No unread replies. No replies. In your own words, describe what you think makes a great story. Think of your favorite books or short stories and note which elements stood out to you. What do you think the author did exceptionally well? What would you change about the story to make it better? Search entries or author. So
we read that. Those are the instructions. We could search.
Edit.
We saw that in the previous for announcements.
Filter replies by unread.
We can filter replies.
Filter replies by unread. Check collapse replies button. Expand replies button. You are unsubscribed and will not be notified of new comments. Click the subscribe button. There's
another place that you can actually subscribe there.
Reply to What Makes a Good Story button.
I could press space to reply.
Space. Drag handle link.
All right. Now,
topic. What makes a good story?
And we have the same thing that we had before. We can press H.
What makes a good story? Grabbing to top. What may link no unread replies in your what do you think the search entries are off?
We have the actual text of the discussion.
Edit.
And we have an edit field.
Filter replies by unfilled. Collapse replies. Expand.
Oh, wait.
You are a view keyboard short edit.
Yes. So we have an edit field. We have another shortcuts menu, keyboard shortcut.
P. Edit.
So we could press enter.
Enter.
We could type our reply. We can tab.
Editor status bar toolbar. View key.
We have that toolbar that we saw for announcements.
Attach link.
We could attach a document.
Cancel link. Post reply button.
We have cancel and we have post reply.
Escape.
And
cancel link space canvas.
I'm going to cancel. So those are very, very similar. Now let's look at
links list.
I'm going to go back to the dashboard.
D. Dashboard.
You don't have to go back to dashboard. We could probably get there from here.
Enter. Loading page. Dashboard.
But let's look at
page has 6 rewrite.
Inbox. And in fact, I'm going to go to
screen share dashboard Google Chrome.
I'm going to go to the teacher side of things to look at this because I have more messages there. So let's look at our inbox.
Links list dialog. Links.
I'm going to go to my links list and press I.
Inbox 5 of 24.
For inbox and enter.
Enter. Inbox.
Now this is, again, it's going to be a little different, but it's going to be very similar to announcements and discussions in terms of how it's laid out. So we're going to press H.
Inbox heading level 1.
Now let's down arrow here because I want to show you a few key things.
Banner. Filter messages by course. All courses button menu.
You can filter by course.
Filter conversations by type. Combo box collapsed inbox.
Where it says combo box collapsed inbox. This is important because this is where you're going to find different messages that you've either starred, maybe messages you've sent. Let's press enter and go into this menu and see what we have.
Enter. Filter conversations by type. Combo box collapsed inbox.
We can So we can filter by inbox,
Unread.
unread,
Starred.
starred,
Sent.
sent,
Archived.
archived,
Submission comments.
and submission comments.
Art. Sent. Star. Unread. Inbox.
So I'm going to leave it on inbox.
Escape.
And then from here, we can press H.
Renee Whitaker. Elizabeth Whitaker. Heading level 2.
So that tells me who sent the message. It sent it to the person sent it to me, so I can down arrow here.
Heading level 3. Hello. Hello, I am glad you joined this class and look forward to meeting with you.
Now, where it said heading level, let's see.
Heading level 3.
Heading level 3, hello. That's the subject of the message, and then we have the message.
Hello 3 total messages. Not starred. Hello. Click the
And it's not starred. That's okay.
open message button.
Now, here's what I really want to show you about messages. So we can press the letter H to navigate through these messages. And we have 2, I think.
Renee
Here.
Whitaker. Test heading level 3.
Oh, we have.
Wrapping to top.
Yeah,
Inbox.
we have 2. All right. So if I want to open that message,
Renee Whitaker. Elizabeth Whitaker. Hello. Heading level 3.
I can navigate down here to the hello message with the letter H, and I can press B for open message button.
Open message button.
Now, if I press enter here,
Enter.
there is no indication by JAWS or by the screen reader here that something has opened because it doesn't open a new page. The way we know whether it opens or not is we can keep pressing H.
Renee Whitaker. Test heading wrapping to top.
And I don't think it did.
Renee.
So let's
Hello. Heading.
try that again.
Open message button. Space.
Press space. All right. So we have another message here that we have to navigate through.
Renee with test heading wrapping to top. Renee. Hello. Heading level 3. Hello 3 total not starred. Hello. Screen updated.
I think it just updated my screen really fast. Hang on.
Slower.
So a JAWS command that you can use is insert escape. That updates your screen so that if something did happen, but it wasn't recognized there by JAWS, the screen hadn't caught up yet, you can press insert escape.
Renee with hello. Renee with test heading level 3 wrapping to top. Renee with
So we're going to try this one more time.
hello.
I promise this does work.
Open message button. Enter. Inbox.
All right, now let's see.
Wrapping to top. In wrapping to bottom. Inbox heading level 1. Wrapping to bottom.
Refresh that screen.
Screen updated.
Slow it down.
Slower.
You don't always have to do this, but this is one part that was a little tricky.
Renee, hello. Renee test head. Hello. Heading level 2.
And now it worked. Okay, so an easy way to find out if you have several messages, you don't want to have to press H to navigate through all of them. So an easy way to get there is to go to the bottom of the page with Control End.
Canvas support button.
And then press
Fast.
Shift H.
Hello. Heading level 2.
And it'll read the subject of the message that is currently open. So just to kind of walk you through what happened there, I was pressing space and enter, and if something was going on, that message wasn't being sent to the screen reader, so it was not recognizing that, or perhaps the message wasn't opening. As a JAWS user, sometimes you really don't know. I was pressing insert escape to refresh my screen, and now we have the message. So again, it's going to appear after all of the messages that you have here in your inbox. So just go to the bottom of the screen with Control End and press Shift H because it has its own heading. And from here,
list of 2. I reply to conversation. Hello button.
We could reply. We could read the message. We could go to options. Let's see what we got here.
Message actions for conversation.
Oh, actions. So if we press space.
Space. Reply all. 1 of 5.
We have 5 options here. We have reply all, forward.
Forward. Archive. 3 of 5.
Archive.
Star. 4. Delete.
Star and delete. All right.
Escape. Leaving.
One more thing I want to show you for messages is how to compose one.
Reply all. PC cursor. Delete. 5 of 5.
Let me get it. I'll press escape.
Escape. Leaving menus. Main virtual.
There we go.
Inbox.
So I'm in my inbox and I want to compose a message. Now I can press B until I get to actually, I'm not sure if compose is a link or a button. So I'm going to do a find with Control F.
Virtual find.
And I'm going to type compose.
C-O-P-P-O-C blank C-O-M-P-O-S-E. Enter. Compose a new message. Button.
All right, it is a button. So I want to show you something critical about composing a message here. We're going to press space.
Space. Close button.
Now we have this modal again.
Heading level close button.
Which we have a heading.
Heading level 2 compose message.
Compose message.
Close button.
We have a close button.
Course. Select course. A selection is required before recipient's field will become available. Button menu collapse.
All right, so here you can't choose a recipient until you select a course. For announcements and discussions, those are usually pertaining to a specific course anyway, so you don't have to select that. But we're going to press the space bar here to get to this menu.
Space. Inbox.
And
escape.
Hang on.
Inbox. Heading level. Wrapping to top. Compose message. Close button. Course. Select course. Enter. Select course checked.
So it's going to say select course checked. I'm going to keep pressing down arrow.
Favorite courses button menu.
and it says favorite courses button menu. I'm going to press right arrow.
Creative writing not checked.
And it says creative writing not checked. If I press enter here.
Enter. Leaving menus. Creative writing button menu.
So now instead of saying select course, it says creative writing button menu. Let's up arrow.
Context menu. Favorite.
Let me make.
Creative. Enter. Leaving menu. Escape. Renee with main.
Sometimes you have to escape out of it too because you're kind of still in these menus, just the way that they're configured.
Escape. Escape.
All right.
Combo. Compose a new message.
So let's see where we are.
Reply. Button. Compose a new message. Button. Space. Close.
Let's try that again.
Course. Select course. A selection is enter. Select favorite course. Creative write enter. Leaving menus. App. Virtual.
All right. So.
Course. Creative writing button menu.
Now it worked. Okay. Sorry about that. So when you're troubleshooting, when you're walking through some of these steps, they can be a bit tricky just because of the way there's so many different elements used here. But what's important to take away is that you can press enter on these menu buttons. You can arrow to what you want and press enter. And then you either want to press if you have a numpad, the plus key on the numpad, which is going to activate your virtual PC cursor, or hit escape a couple times to make sure that you're out of the menu so you don't actually choose something else.
Course creative writing button menu collapse.
All right, so here we have creative writing button. That's the class that's chosen.
2.
And now we have a 2 field.
Edit combo collapse enter.
So we open that with our enter key. We press enter. And I can start typing who I want to send this to.
REN expanded list with 2 items. Creative writing as pop-up 1 of 2.
And we have a couple options here in autocomplete. I started typing a name.
Renee Whitaker.
All right, so I want to email that person. I'm going to press enter.
Enter 2. Start typing to choose.
And it added that recipient, but we could also type another one in here. We could also shift tab.
List with 1 items. Remove recipient Renee Whitaker link.
So we could remove that person if we accidentally typed their name and we didn't mean to. All right.
2. Start.
So after we choose everyone we want to add.
Search names, groups, and.
We can search names and groups there.
Subject edit as pop-up.
There's where we enter our subject. You'll hear it say has pop-up, but those are edit fields. Those usually mean that there's some form of autocomplete that could occur there, just like it did for the 2 field.
Send an individual message to each recipient. Checkbox not checked. Body edit required.
There's for the body of the message.
Add an attachment button.
We could add an attachment.
Record an audio or video comment button.
We can record a comment there.
Cancel button.
Cancel.
Send button.
And send. So
cancel button.
What I really wanted to show you
Space.
Was
escape.
That you have to actually select a course before you can actually choose who you want to send the message to. All right, we're going to pause right there.
Dashboard work Microsoft screen sharing meeting.
That is a lot of info.
Alt S.
And we're going to see if we have any questions.
You did have several questions come in, and the first questions that came up kind of had to do with each other, so I'm going to read them at the same time for you. We had one person ask, what is card view? And the next person asked, could you explain the differences in the navigation of the list view versus the card view, if there are any?
That card view shows you, and as I do this, I'm going to navigate. So card view, when you're navigating with card view, let me go over here to the student so I can talk you through this. All right. So the first thing you get with card view, it shows you like your course, the courses that you're in. If you have multiple courses, you get those courses. So I think visually it's displayed in a certain way so that it shows you your courses and then it shows you your to-do items. And sometimes, that can make it really easy if you're looking at it on the screen to navigate. It also makes it easy with JAWS because you can go right to that to-do heading. And I'll show you that here in just a few minutes. And you can navigate through those items that you have to do. If you go to list view, it's going to show you like per day. It's going to list the things that you have today, tomorrow, and so forth. So it's going to list them. They're more chronological.
Okay. And then this is a great one that I have to share with you because we had a participant ask, when I'm in a discussion, how can I attach an image? I've been attaching them as an attachment, but I'm getting points off for not using the image attachment. Elizabeth, you did such a great job that she answered her own question with, I get it now. For images, it's Alt plus F9.
Oh, yeah, because there are some yes, there are those commands there. Great, great, great.
So, and then we had somebody ask if the keyboard shortcuts are specific for Canvas or JAWS, like Alt F8 is the keyboard shortcut. I think I must have read that out of order, but Kim did also answer that Alt F8 is a specific to JAWS or specific to Canvas shortcut.
Yes, that will bring up a list of keyboard shortcuts only available on Canvas. Those are the ones that they have developed for their site, and you don't have to be using JAWS to use those. You just have to make sure that they are enabled in settings.
Okay. And our final question that came in is after Control plus End to get to the bottom of the messages, and then what?
Okay, so sorry if that was a little confusing. Sometimes opening those messages gets tricky. You press space or enter on open message button, and then you press Control End to go to the end of your messages. And if you press Shift H, that is going to navigate you backward through your headings. And if the message opened, you will hear the subject of that message. It will be the last heading on that page. If you do not hear that, then that means you probably need to locate that message and press the space bar or enter on open message button again. And you can also try that insert escape as a screen refresh, because again, sometimes things happen. It's just whatever happened didn't quite process yet. And so it's taking a while to process, and pressing insert escape will refresh the screen. And that's a JAWS command, by the way.
One. Elizabeth, that's the end of our questions.
Okay, well, let's go back to our presentation. And I'm going to talk through these last 2 slides too, and then demonstrate as well, because I have some other things I want to show you too. So accessing the syllabus. Now, I think there are a number of ways to attach a syllabus. I created one. I did not create specific due dates, but if you do and you add your syllabus, they will attach to the calendar. It'll list those things. When you create assignments, those things are listed as well. So to access a syllabus, you're going to go to your course, and you can navigate to the syllabus link using Insert F7. That brings up your list of links, and then press S for syllabus, press enter on that link, and it'll take you straight to that syllabus page. You can attach them as files. I don't know if that's frequently done, or if teachers usually include them on the page. The way I uploaded one was it's just included on the page, so that when you go to that syllabus page, you can read it. And I also attached it as a file in files for that course. So I'll show you all that. And then moving on to the next slide about rubrics, it works the same way. So if you have a rubric, say for an assignment, for example, you go to that assignment, or you go to the course, maybe you have just a course rubric, and you navigate to that rubric link and press enter. And then there's a heading that you navigate to that gives you, right before it lists the assignment, gives you the instructions, you get a rubric link. So you can look at all that information right there before you even work on the assignment. All right, so let's go ahead and share the screen again, and we will go through these tasks, and I'll kind of show you too another thing that I like about the syllabus. Actually, couple of really neat things. All right.
Screen. Dashboard work Microsoft Edge.
All right, so I'm going to talk
Dashboard.
about this.
PC dashboard dashboard.
Okay, there we go.
Save.
I'm going to talk about this from a student's perspective. And there's something really interesting I want to show you that is specific to Edge here. Okay, so I'm on the dashboard. I'm going to navigate to my course. I'm going to press H.
Dashboard heading level 1. Creative writing visited heading level 3 link.
There's my course. If I press enter.
Enter. Dashboard. Visited heading level 3 link. Creative writing.
All right.
Page at
so
syllabus. Visit.
I'm going to go to the top again. So let's navigate through this course, kind of just get an idea of what we have.
Creative writing heading level 1.
So there's a heading.
Creative writing. Heading level 2 course modules.
We have modules.
Collapse all modules button expanded. Heading level 2 characteristics of creative writing.
So each module here is its own heading, and we can navigate. We can use our arrow keys to see what's under each one.
Characteristics of creative writing toggle module visibility button expanded. Use JAWS key plus alt plus.
So we could press space to collapse that so that there wouldn't be any content we would be viewing right now under it, or we can leave it expanded.
Assignment. Visited link writing exercise.
So there is an assignment. We can navigate to that assignment from here.
10 PTS. Attachment. Visited link writing exercise. Docs. Heading level 2 using figurative language.
So here we have different modules. Now, I don't have assignments under each one, but we can press the letter H.
Show rather than tell. You add sensory point of view pop theme heading level 2. Genre heading level 2. Plot and setting heading level 2. To do heading level 2.
And then finally we get to the to do heading, which is also on the previous page, but we can press down arrow here.
Visited link welcome to creative writing.
There's our announcement.
Creative writing.
And if we press enter on it, we'll be taken right to that announcements page.
Feb 20 at 4:32 p.m. Dismiss welcome to creative writing button.
We can dismiss that from the to do.
Visited link what makes a good story.
This is the discussion that is due on
Creative writing. 10 points. Feb 24 at 1:59 a.m.
And that's a really odd time. I thought I had set, I think my computer's set for a weird time. But yeah, that's when that announcement is due. And if we pressed enter on that link, then it would have taken us to that discussion.
Dismiss what makes a good story. Heading level 2 recent feedback.
And then we have recent feedback. Okay.
Creative.
So here we can press H.
Creative writing. Creative writing. Heading level 2 course modules.
Okay, wait a minute.
Create.
All right, so I'm going to press the letter B on this page. I'm just showing you where certain things are on the page, and you can jump to things very quickly, which we're about to talk about the syllabus.
Account button. Courses button.
Now I'm pressing the letter B here.
History button. Help button.
There's a help button where if you press space, you can get some information there.
Expand global navigation button. Hide courses navigation menu button.
Okay, this one's really important because if you accidentally hide the courses navigation button, you won't see your navigation links for that course. But we haven't done that, so.
Visited link creative. Modules. Visited current page link home. Visited link announcements.
So it said current page is home. We have a link for announcements.
Visited link assignments.
Assignments.
Visited link discussions. Link grades. Visited link people. Visited link files. Visited link syllabus. Visited link outcomes.
So as you can see,
link modules.
We have a lot of different things here.
Link big blue button. Visited link collaborations.
Now, there's one here on collaborations. We're going to come back to that one in just a minute.
Heading level 1.
All right, but let's go to the syllabus. I'm going to go ahead and use the find command just because I really like that one. Control F.
Virtual find.
SYL.
SYL.
I could have also brought up my list of links.
Enter. Visited link syllabus.
And it brings me to that link and I can press enter.
Enter. Loading page. Courses navigation menu.
All right.
Immersive reader.
Now,
syllabus.
I hit control accidentally, but Edge just told us something very important. It said immersive reader available. Now, I want to make a very important distinction here. In Canvas settings, there is a setting for using immersive reader. That is not the same thing as using it here in Edge. That particular feature in Canvas allows you to select text and have immersive reader read that out loud. Here in Microsoft Edge, the immersive reader is used on web pages where you'll see articles, blog posts, text, basically big blocks of text. And as a JAWS user, it's very convenient. I think sighted people like it as well because you can isolate that information. So if I'm using Edge, this is not available to Chrome. If I'm using Edge and I don't want to have to navigate through all this information, I just want to see the syllabus, I can press F9. That is a Microsoft Edge command.
F9, loading page, loading.
And it told me immersive reader,
Creative.
It said immersive reader is available when the page loaded. You can always try pressing F9. If it's not available, it won't do anything. If it is available, here we are. So
Unpin toolbar button. Reading preferences button.
So we have some toolbars and things for reading preferences, but here's what makes this so much simpler. Let's just down arrow.
Heading level 1 creative writing course syllabus. Heading level 2 course description. This course will focus on expressive writing in many different forms. Student.
And so it just reads the entire, you have this text here that is the entire syllabus. If you want to copy and paste it, you could. If you just want to read it cleanly, you can. Let's go to the bottom.
Black. To hear more about yourself and your world through your goals as writers, please sign on the appropriate line to form signed. Keep the syllabus part in your bind. Black medium square.
And now we're at the bottom. Now, if I exit Immersive Reader
F9. Loading.
with F9, it loads the regular page back
Immersive
again.
Reader. Syllabus.
And now we have an entire web page like we're used to where we can navigate. So let's go down through here.
Course syllabus heading level 1.
Now we have the syllabus.
Link jump to today.
If we press enter here, it's going to jump to what, the thing that's due first here.
Heading level 1 creative writing course Mrs. Whitaker. Heading level 2 course description.
So now we have the course description. Now, what I really like about this as well is if we want to get a list of, if we want to see what's due when, let's press the letter T.
Table with 3 columns and 4 rows.
We have a table.
Details. Due. 5 Feb 24, 2023. Discussion topic.
Tells us when and what it is.
Visited link. What makes a good story?
Again, we can press enter there, go right to that discussion.
Due by 1:59 a.m. Assignment. Visited link showing VS telling.
There's our assignment.
Assignment. Visited link writing exercise.
And so it shows us everything that's due. There weren't dates on all of these, but if there were, it would be reading those.
Table Prev month button.
We can go
Next month
to the next month and so forth. So that's how you navigate the syllabus. Now let's go back up to this assignment, the showing versus telling.
Prev Vis assignment. Visited link showing VS telling.
So I want to know how to access a rubric. I'm going to press enter.
Enter. Loading page. Syllabus for loading complete.
And we're here on that assignment page. So all I have to do, just like I did with the syllabus, with the course page, or the syllabus page, I can press H.
Showing VS telling heading level 1, rubric heading level 2.
And here we have a rubric. Now I didn't actually create a full-on rubric here, but we do have how many points this is worth.
Show VS tell. Table with 3. Show VS tell. Show VS tell. Criteria. Ratings. PTS. Description of criterion. 10 PTS.
And if I had a lot of other information here, it would be right here and we could read it. And so again, that's just
wrapping the top.
How we can get more information and access the rubric. And so your syllabus, again, your syllabus link is on your course page. And your rubric link, if you have a link to a rubric for an entire course, it's going to be there as well. And it's also going to be for each assignment, you're going to have that rubric. All right, let's go back to our dashboard. And I want to show you one more thing here.
Virtual JAWS D, A, enter, wrapping the top, visit, enter, banner region, global, loading complete.
So collaborating, and this is something we talked about earlier, but
dash.
You can collaborate in a number of ways. And in the settings, we did have a section from web sources or web settings, web resources that you can add. And Google Docs is one of those. So if you want to share a document, you go to collaborations. And the reason I mentioned that about the navigation, course navigation button, making sure that it's not hidden is because if it is, you won't find collaborations on this page.
Virtual find, COLL, enter, screen find, escape. Dashboard.
So let's make sure.
A course history button, help button, expand dashboard options button, choose a color or course nick. Dashboard.
Oh wait, let's go to the course. Hang on. Let's go to the course.
Dashboard creative writing visited, enter, loading.
There
creative loading complete. Visited.
All right. Now, when you use the find command, if you press Control F and you type collaborate or whatever, collaboration, whatever you want to type, and you hit enter, it's going to, if it has any results, it's going to come back with the first. It's going to take you to the first instance of that word on the page. And if that's not the one you want, you hit F3, it'll continue navigating you through that instance. The next time you use the find command, if you want to search for the same word, you don't even have to activate the command. You can just press F3. So I used it a minute ago and it came up with nothing, but let's see what happened. That's because I was on the wrong page. I needed to select the course.
Visited link collaborations.
But I pressed F3. There is the page for collaborations.
Enter loading page, courses navigation, menu navigation.
And again, we have a collaborations page. We can press H.
Current collaborations heading level 1.
We have current collaborations. Let's down arrow.
Start a new collaboration button.
We could start a new collaboration. Teachers and students can start collaborating with others. So that's something that's accessible to both teachers and students.
Heading level 3 test document. Visited link to access this collaboration. You must authorize Canvas to access your Google Drive account.
So if I were to enter here, it would ask me to sign into my Google account so that I could access the document. If I already had that connected here in Canvas, it would just take me straight to that Google Docs. Otherwise, it's going to make me sign in, and it's going to take me to Google Docs and open up that document, and I could collaborate with others.
Started by link Elizabeth Whitaker, Feb 20 at 5:45 p.m. Free online web tools like visited link Google Docs are an excellent place for students to work on group projects or papers, take shared notes, etc.
And it just tells you here a little information about what this page is.
Canvas support button.
And then we have Canvas support button. So I'm going to go back.
Back, going back, loading page, creative write back, going back, loading page, loading complete, dashboard.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing the screen for now.
Screen sharing meeting.
And let's see if you have any questions or if there's anything else you would like me to show you.
We do have some questions that came in. Rocky asked, is there a difference between the virtual find and the JAWS find? And is one better to use with Canvas than the other?
I would say they both are relatively work the same, because virtual find is available when you have a web page or a document where we use what is called the virtual cursor. That is something that is specific to JAWS, because you use it in places where you don't have a regular cursor. So, a cursor that you can, a system cursor that you can follow the pointer and know where it is. So some situations won't let you use that virtual find, so you can use the JAWS find. And so that's really the only difference. Virtual find, it's still a JAWS command. It's Control F, and then the JAWS find is insert Control F. So I hope that answered your question. But to answer your question, it just really doesn't matter either way. I mean, if the Control F works where you are, then I think that one's fine.
We had another participant ask if the immersive reader only comes on if a screen reader is on.
No, well, no, the immersive reader, that's a very good question. It's not screen reader specific. So you have some options in immersive reader. If you're using it in Canvas and you're selecting some text and you right click, you press Shift F10 or you right mouse click, if that's turned on, there'll be an option that says read with immersive reader, and it's going to read it out loud in a synthesized voice that's not JAWS. And you have that option when you're using Edge as well, if you want it to read things to you, or if you just want to be able to read information just that's all contained in one place, like the syllabus in that case, or an article. And where this really benefits JAWS users is it allows us to just read that information all in one place. So it does have the visual component, and it also has the auditory component if you choose to have it read in a synthesized voice, which is a Microsoft voice there.
Just a clarification from that same participant. Did you say that F10 turns on the immersive reader?
F9, very close. Turns it on and off. And you can use it on a number of different web pages. If it's not available, F9 won't do anything. Nothing will happen when you press it. If it is available, then F9 will turn it on. You'll have a toolbar at the top that gives you some options for adjusting text size, reading out loud, things like that. And you press F9 again to turn it off.
We had someone ask for a reminder on how do you turn on course navigation?
Okay, great question. There is a button. So if you're in your dashboard and you go to, I'm going to go to a class here. If it's visible, when you press the letter B, there's a hide courses navigation menu button. If it's hidden, then that button will say show courses navigation button. So if you're not finding any of the links pertaining to your courses and you know you should be, press the letter B until you hear it say show courses navigation button and press the space bar.
Awesome. We had a question come in that's similar to the dashboard, so I'm going to go ahead and read it out of order. Could you repeat the command for getting to the dashboard? I looked on the handout and I could not find it.
Okay, great question. Anytime you want to go to dashboard from wherever you are, and this is really convenient if you're several links deep into it, and you don't want to press, the back button or alt left arrow several times. You can always either use the Control F find command and type dash or dashboard and hit enter and it will find it. Or you can press Insert F7 to bring up a list of links on your page and press the letter D. And when it says dashboard, press enter.
Awesome. And then we have one more question. Does Canvas only work with Edge or can other browsers be used?
Nope, you can use other browsers. In fact, I was using Google Chrome for the teacher login and Edge for the student login. And those two browsers are very similar because they're built with the same technology. They're both Chromium based. And so all of the commands that I gave you are going to be exactly the same. Nothing changes from browser to browser.
It's important information.
Yes.
I do not see any other questions coming in yet. I think we've answered them all so far.
Okay. Well, just to recap a few things here, I wanted to mention we do have, and we'll get to this on our final slide as well. We do have a lot of training material available on our training page, and that's at freedomscientific.com/training. And that is our hub for everything that we offer, everything from our YouTube videos to JAWS training, Zoom Text, Fusion, Braille, our upcoming webinars, archived webinars. We also we have a teachers page, and you can navigate this page with the letter H too, by the way. Everything has its own heading. Under that teachers page, we have different resources for things like JAWS and math. We have an entire tutorial on learning JAWS. So if you want to learn JAWS or you're teaching it to your students, this is a great place to go because we've actually had a lot of teachers tell us they kind of use it while they're working with students. And it's just broken up into short tasks, modules there, lessons in each module. And at the end of each module, you have a quiz. It's comprised of text. There are videos, which of course all of our videos are self-described there. And we just kind of broke it up into all these different tasks that are easy to navigate in modules. Another thing that we have available, if you're navigating the web and you want a little refresher, or if you want to learn more about how to navigate the web, we have our online self-paced tutorial called Surfs Up. And there you'll find pages that will give you information about what are web page elements? How do I navigate them? What do I need to know? What is forms mode? Because I mentioned that a couple times here. So it'll give you all of that information. And there are practice pages there for you to practice things like filling out forms, navigating web pages, navigating tables, all different kinds of things there. And so you could use those practice pages. And then, if you wanted, you could open Canvas if you were having a little bit of difficulty navigating or you weren't quite sure what to do. You could open Surfs Up and a different browser, a different tab, and just kind of navigate Canvas along with those lessons. So just to let you know, Surfs Up is also on the training page.
Yolanda asked, where do I find this information regarding learning JAWS? I did post the links for the training center, the teaching resources, the Surfs Up tutorial, your webinars on demand, as well as the link for using JAWS with Canvas from the last Access Academy webinar that you recorded for us. So
Great.
Those are all in the chat.
Great. And if you have any questions, if you're ever looking for resources and you can't find what you need, send us an email to training@vispero.com. Training@vispero.com. And Vispero is V as in Victor, I, S as in Sierra, P as in Papa, ERO. So it's training@vispero.com. And also let us know what topics you would like us to develop training on. What are some videos you would like us to create? What about some webinars? Let us know what you'd like to know.
We did have one more question asking if any of the teaching resources are in Spanish.
Not at this time, but we will send us an email and we can discuss that. We do not have our training resources at this time in other languages, but we are seeking to make sure all of our resources are available and to accommodate a lot of different situations. So.
Wonderful. All right, giving it a second to see if any more questions come in. I did put training@vispero.com into the webinar chat. And Yolanda, it never hurts to ask a question, even if it was posted before, somebody else is in the same boat, I promise.
Absolutely.
All right, I am going to go ahead and pause our recording, and that way we can go over the end of the webinar.